South China Sea crisis. The South China Sea has been a hotspot of territorial disputes since the 1960s. Rich in resources, it has attracted claims from multiple countries, leading to complex geopolitical tensions. The South China Sea, commonly referred to as the South China Sea, has experienced territorial disputes since the 1960s and 1970s, when certain countries began asserting sovereignty claims. The region is rich in resources, prompting the claimant countries to vie for sovereignty to secure resource extraction rights. To temporarily ease tensions, all claimant countries, except for the Republic of China, signed the Declaration on the Conduct of Parties in the South China Sea in 2002, which aimed to regulate behavior but did not address the sovereignty disputes. However, following the implementation of the U.S. Pivot to Asia strategy under the Obama administration in 2010, the United States began to intervene strongly in South China Sea affairs. The U.S. asserted that the islands in the South China Sea were merely rocks and that no claimant nation could possess sovereignty over them. It advocated for resolving related rights through negotiation and international arbitration, emphasizing freedom of navigation and opposing any militarization in the area. In 2013, with U.S. support, the Philippines filed a case against China in the Permanent Court of Arbitration in The Hague, arguing that China's claims based on the Nine-Line and its enforcement and land reclamation activities violated the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. On July 12, 2016, the tribunal ruled in favor of the Philippines on all claims, stating that the historical rights associated with the Nine-Line were illegal and incompatible with UNCLOS. It also found that China's large-scale land reclamation activities were inconsistent with a state's obligations during dispute resolution and accused China of inflicting irreparable harm on the marine environment. Nonetheless, China does not recognize this ruling, and the Philippines has adopted a conciliatory posture. To date, the arbitration remains at a stage characterized as binding but unenforceable. The United States, of course, was not willing to back down. During the midterm of the Trump administration, the U.S. continued to assert freedom of navigation in the South China Sea while occasionally raising its voice in criticism and protest against China's actions. However, it wasn't until July 13, 2020, that Secretary of State Mike Pompeo publicly expressed opposition to China's claims in the South China Sea, formally declaring them illegal. He emphasized that China had failed to provide a clear legal basis for its Nine-Line claims, stating that the world would not allow Beijing to treat the South China Sea as its maritime empire. He further called on any country that felt its sovereignty claims in the South China Sea were being violated by China to seek support from the U.S. Although he hinted that America would back these nations through diplomatic rather than military means. That said, U.S. naval vessels continued to frequently operate in the South China Sea, clearly signaling an intent to demonstrate military strength alongside asserting freedom of navigation. On July 23, Australia, a member of the Five Eyes Alliance, submitted a statement to the United Nations, declaring that it opposed any Chinese sovereignty claims in the South China Sea that conflicted with the 1982 United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. Australia's statement contested China's historical basis for its claims, referencing the 2016 South China Sea arbitration ruling, which deemed such historical claims invalid under international maritime law. The statements from the U.S. and Australia were a continuation of the joint declaration made at the ASEAN Summit in June 2020. Emphasizing that all nations operating in the South China Sea should comply with the 1982 UNCLOS and stressing the importance of demilitarization and self-restraint. In the event of conflict, it was crucial to seek peaceful resolutions based on internationally recognized principles, including UNCLOS, to enhance mutual trust and confidence. Given China's long-standing strategic interests in the South China Sea, it was unlikely to retreat. Pompeo's declaration aimed to elevate the South China Sea issue to the forefront of U.S.-China tensions, potentially provoking conflict. While he indicated a preference for diplomatic support for countries whose sovereignty was infringed upon, the current global landscape suggests that U.S. diplomatic efforts might be insufficient, making military pressure a likely necessity. This was evident after Biden took office, as he deployed the USS Theodore Roosevelt and USS Nimitz carrier strike groups to operate simultaneously in the South China Sea. This move was sure to provoke protests from China, yet the US was unlikely to alter its show of military capability in the region. Consequently, the standoff between the two nations was expected to escalate, and without careful management, military conflict would become increasingly difficult to avoid. In 2021, the South China Sea became a stage for naval ships and aircraft from member countries of the Quad Security Dialogue, as well as from the United Kingdom, France, Germany, and Canada. The purpose of these operations was primarily to demonstrate military strength to China and to deter any potential plans by China to use force against Taiwan. The United States, the United Kingdom, and Australia also formed the AUKUS military alliance to assist Australia in developing nuclear-powered submarines, further introducing unpredictable elements of conflict into the South China Sea and the Taiwan Strait.